Hello, this is a story. It's called Prendth, the Cool Kid, trying to be cooler than the old bullies. Well, all people want to be cool, and this is just the story of Frank's approach. Frank lived with his parents in the Canberra suburb of Page near Belconnen, and as a kid, he was noticed as the cool kid who kids quite often said, "You like us" to it. At first, Frank didn't know what they were saying, but he eventually realized that they thought he was better than his family. Frank went out showing off his muscly legs to all the girls in Canberra. Girls you wouldn't have touched him anywhere else. But Frank tried to make sure that the Canberra people had no knowledge of that. But his brother Thomas tried to tell everybody. But he had to make sure that Frank caved in to being an oldie. Yeah, and Frank said, "You ain't getting me, brother boy." The Canberra people liked him more, so they try and find a way to treat his brother like a loser. And Thomas said, "I ain't no loser. I want to show the Canberra people the kind of square that Frank was, a long time ago." And his parents said, "Let Frank enjoy himself. With his new friends, you still have your friends. So give him a break, because you were just a teaser, and they never win the war. So let little baby Frankie have his baby's bottle. He might feel like he's like the Canberra dudes, but really he's a big loser. He'll never be as cool as you, Thomas. So just enjoy being the uncool one for a while." You see, Frank went to the Raiders matches, and at the moment the Raiders suck. But this is when they played at Seaford back in the 80s when they were all right. And he went also with his mate Don Cooper. And on days when the Raiders won, the bus would have Raiders chanting songs. "Raiders," and the crowd used to go really wild. And all the different people used to fight the opposing team supporters because they were disturbed. Because they disturbed his resting on the bus. While they teased Don just sat there saying, Frank just said, "Don, you're a loser." Mind you, the bullies never heard Frank say that, but if they did, Frank would have been friends with them before he left school, because they thought that Frank was a cool person. The way he laughed at his mate like that. And every time they got home, there would be this phone call 15 minutes after they both had dinner, with Don ringing up Frank to abuse him because he laughed at Frank. "Mate, I laughed because you acted like a loser." Well, all through school, Don acted like a real dickhead, and Frank thinks like that, like at the Raiders, cannons, over each other's places, at each New Year's Eve party at home, and down the club. And you say that Don had a very embarrassing moment, and it really made Frank feel really uncomfortable. And it's hard for him to have Don as a friend. And after they finished school together, they took up playing basketball down in the gymnasium. And Frank and Don were put on different teams. Mainly Frank was too fit for Don, and since he realized that, Frank said to Don, "Hey, Don, I am fitter than you. And Don said, "I am fitter." But as soon as he woke up, he fell over in the shower, and Frank said, "That doesn't happen to us fit ones." Don was really sick of Frank saying that, so he slowly tried his best to turn everyone in Canberra off him. But then Robert Glenn befriended Frank, and they spoke behind Don's back, laughing as well. This was very fun, so much fun, in fact, Any time that Robert was showing signs of being uncool, Frank said, "You're not cool either." And after 2 years, Frank left them to move on. But everyone started to tease Frank since then. You see, the joint car detailing course at TAFE, and everyone teased him, and he said, "You ain't scaring me. I am like Robert." But still, they still teased him, and he left there and went to a team rebuilding course, which is called Try. And mind you, it's a group called Try. It sounds a bit sort of, bit weird. Which meant training, recreation for the young. And Frank was hopeless at everything there. And after about 4 days of going there, talking to nerdy friends, real weirdo, retarded, nerdy friends, and being teased because he knows nothing about playing these types of sports, Frank left and said he will never work because the world is fucking out to get him. So he decided to take Robert Glenn's advice and went out into the streets as well as the Canberra CBD and playing cool for all the party goers, even though he liked partying, and did a bit of volunteer work, but he wanted to keep away from all them losers from his past because he has found his own mojo, and that was playing cool for Yimmy Yeah people. And eventually he got his real job, and yes, befriended Frank, and they spoke behind Don's back, laughing as well. This was very fun. So much fun, in fact, that Robert was showing signs of being uncool. You're not either. You're not cool either. And after 2 years, Frank left them to move on, and everyone started to tease Frank since then. You see, I must have done. Sorry, I just have gone on to the next page somehow. Somehow I might have read too much into it. But anyway, I think I might have put another page in. That was actually a very good story, and it has to be a bit more well done than that. But I'm hoping that you actually enjoyed it, and let's have a see.